to start off with, could you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what you do and your experience with birds?
Yeah, so my name is Jamie Womack. My husband and I perform all over the world with our birds. We've been to more than 20 countries with our parrots, performing with them. We also run a website and a YouTube channel by the name of BirdTricks. And then we both offer consultations to bird owners alike, and we specialize in outdoor free flight training for birds of all ages and all backgrounds. So that's kind of what we're about.
Wow, I didn't know you guys have been to so many countries. That's so cool.
Yeah, we definitely, we get around the planet.
Yeah, you'll have to tell me more about that. Can you explain what environmental enrichment means and why it's important for captive parrots?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that people have all these different scientific ways of defining environmental enrichment, but to me, it's literally just giving opportunities to encourage an animal to be more physically and mentally active. So just by giving it opportunities in its environment to do so. So a very common one that people talk about is foraging for its food. You know, how birds naturally look for food in the wild, or any animal looks for food in the wild, just kind of mimicking nature and trying to bring opportunities that are similar to nature back into the captive environment is kind of what I would define as environmental enrichment.
Okay, thanks. And one of the things I wanted to kind of go more into detail with environmental enrichment is for outdoor parrots, would you consider sunlight and wind to be good enough environmental enrichment for them?
So I do feel like sunlight and wind are underutilized in captive parrots' lives. Like not every bird owner is going to have an outdoor aviary or offer that natural sunlight, which I do believe is super important for their health. But as far as enrichment, I feel like sun and wind feels good, but it doesn't give your bird a reason to be more active or more mentally engaged with something. Whereas like foraging, your bird is actually figuring something out, using its brain to figure it out, and then using its body to physically manipulate those things. And so it's a lot more active than sunbathing, which it feels good, but it's not making you think. So
Okay, so yeah, basically making it be more active and doing something physical, like physically engaging.
yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, so the next question I have for you is what causes birds to pluck feathers off of their own body?
So what I see from my own clients, usually plucking is caused from a combination of things, but it can come down to boredom. There's just literally nothing else to do, which is a really sad reality in captive parrots. Another high example would be anxiety. This one is also very common, sadly. And then there's also environmental factors. So if somebody's a smoker, and they don't realize what smoke does to a bird's feathers, and a bird always feels dirty, feels like it can't get that smoke residue off. It'll start with overpreening, which turns to barbering the feathers, which turns to eventually plucking, because it just can't ever get those things off. And then there's also just an improper diet. And I would say those are probably the top four that I see with my own clients.
Okay, so it seems like there can be a lot of reasons. And is that something that's like a consensus in the parrot world, like among keepers and veterinarians?
I mean, it's kind of hard to get anybody in the parrot world to agree on anything, if we're honest. But I do think that among everybody tries to go to a vet and rule out medical issues first. Like, is there a food allergy that the bird is responding to? And once a vet can rule out medical stuff, yeah, it goes down to, are you just sticking your bird in a cage all day with nothing to do? And so it literally starts doing that, which becomes habitual. Or what are you doing, or what are you not doing, is kind of the better question for captive parrots. But I would say that we're all on the same page with what causes plucking for sure.
Okay, so it's not something that could just, be considered normal. If it's something that's happening, you would probably want to start eliminating things and getting to what the problem is, right?
Yeah, I would say if your bird's plucking or showing the early signs of starting to pluck, that means that something's wrong, because you don't, like, plucking is not normal. It is common of captive parrots, which is a sad reality, but it's not normal by any means. It's a sign that something is wrong in that environment or in the life of that bird.
Okay, makes sense. And then the last question that I had for you is still in regards to plucking. So what can you do if the bird has started to pluck or is a plucker? Is there a way to reverse that or to fix the problem?
So plucking is a tough one, and I always feel really bad for clients that are dealing with it because once it becomes a habitual thing, it's incredibly hard to reverse that and make the effects not so self-rewarding. But usually, if somebody comes to me with a plucking bird problem, the first thing I say is go rule out any medical issues. And once those are ruled out, the first thing we tackle is diet. And we just want to make sure that that bird is on the optimal, healthiest diet possible, getting the best foods in its body. So it's not likely to have any sort of allergic reactions to bad foods like high sugars or anything that's kind of artificial in the diet. And then the next thing that I tackle is frequent bathing opportunities because a lot of people will try to bathe their bird. Their bird doesn't like it. So they're like, okay, well, that's fine. My bird doesn't like bathing. And it's like, ah. So letting people know that it's actually, you can train a bird to like bathing and then it can become self-reinforcing. So bathing's a huge thing. I try to encourage people to do that daily with their birds. And then also a big thing for me is I'm a huge advocate of flight. So I feel like if a bird actually has a reason to use its wings and use its feathers, it'll take care of them. So I've seen a lot of parrots go into facilities like rescues where it's a huge aviary environment and they went in as a plucker and then they stopped plucking because all the other birds were getting around via flight and that bird couldn't. And so it finally started taking care of its feathers. And then I've seen them where they still maybe plucked because it was habitual. They plucked like their chest area, but they let their wings grow out and they were flying around to get around as well. So I feel like giving a bird the opportunity to understand what its wings are actually for is really important because a lot of times people are clipping and the bird doesn't ever use those. And so it's like, what do I need these for? And then I would say the last thing is probably enrichment, which is kind of what we started off talking about. And that's just giving time consuming enrichment, right? So instead of feeding from a bowl where it takes, I don't know, 30 minutes max for a bird to eat, actually putting foraging opportunities all around the cage. So now what used to take 30 minutes takes 2 or 3 hours. And so the time that they're spending not plucking is really, really important. They're thinking and doing something else. And I think like getting the brain to do that and be distracted by really healthy opportunities is key.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you so much. And so I just wanted to tell everybody that's watching to definitely go and check you out over on BirdTricks on your YouTube channel. So, and also your website, right? You said it's BirdTricks.
Yeah. Yep. We're over at youtube.com/BirdTricks. And then my website is birdtricksstore.com. So if anybody wants to check it out, we have lots of free information on foraging and toys and, you know, do it yourself stuff that you can put together and ways you can use food as foraging. And there's just a lot of enrichment opportunities I think that people are not thinking about because they're just not aware of how easy it can be to change up an environment of a bird and just simply put the food and water really far apart, you know, to make it just take a little longer or cover stuff with paper or, you know, there's really simple things that people can do to enrich their birds' lives.
Okay, thank you so much. And thanks for taking the time to talk to me today.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, Megan. I really appreciate it.